Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kai. I do bookish, lifestyle, and vlog content. And if you are not new here, thank you so much for coming back. If you hear a little bit of background noise, I do have my window open because it's like a million degrees. And then I also have a load of laundry going right now, so I apologize for that. I cannot believe it's April already. I mean, I know that my shirt is kind of giving Jack Skellington, but I thought it was cute and it is a lot more lightweight than what I was wearing before. But I hope you guys like this. This was a thrift flip, so it was just like a men's dress shirt that I ended up cropping, and you can't see the crop because I'm sitting down, but it's very short. And it's a short sleeve, but it does go all the way to my elbow because it is a pretty big shirt. Anyways, you guys are here to listen to me talk about the books that I read in March. So I read 8 books in March, but I'm only going to talk about 7 because I am finishing the last 10% of Sky Shade right now. So I'm going to include that in my April wrap up. We had 2 5 stars, 2 DNFs, and then the rest were kind of just in the middle. I feel like this month was very weird in terms of reading. I felt like after the first 2 books that I finished, because they were so high rated, everything else just kind of fell short. There was nothing really sticking out to me, so I'm really hoping that my April reading month is a lot better. I just felt bored with a lot of the things that I was reading this past month, but I will tell you exactly why I felt that way. The very first book that we finished was Anathema by Carrie Lake. This one was a carryover from February. I rated this one 5 stars, and the only reason it was not a 6-star book for me was just because there was so much lore and like terminology that you have to remember when you're reading it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very confused going through this book. There's an entire glossary at the beginning with different animals, different species, different types of plants, different like terms and ways of talking. There's just so many things to memorize. And I'm really glad that I read it on my Kindle because I was able to use the book X-ray, so I could go back and reference the glossary without actually having to like sift through the glossary and figure out what each word means. But literally it felt very immersive, I have to say that. Now, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of the FMC, but it might just be because I really liked the MMC. Like Zavander, like Maven's okay, but Zavander is probably my top book boyfriend right now, to be completely honest. I feel like every fantasy book has the brooding shadow daddy, but they don't do it correctly. Carrie Lake, from what I can see, 100% of this rating was all plot and vibes. I don't 100% understand like anything that was going on with any of the way the world works or the magic. I don't understand it. And I think that's okay. I will be reading the second book, Eldritch, when it comes out in September. So be very prepared to be annoyed by how much I talk about this book. The only thing I have to say is I hope that Maven gets more of like a badass edge in the next book, because I think she just seemed so human, and I know that was like her whole thing, that she's human and everybody else is not human. I just feel like Carrie Lake just really, I don't know if I don't like Maven or if I just don't want her to be with Zavander because I want him. Does that make sense? Anyways, on to the next one. The next book was actually a DNF, and I was really surprised that I didn't like this book. I've been trying to get into my mystery thriller era, but honestly, the only books that I've tried and have stuck are Frida McFadden books. I think because of how fast-paced and hooking they are. But this book, it did not read like a mystery thriller. Granted, I only got like 3 chapters in, but that book is On a Quiet Street by Serafina Nova Glass. I was really disappointed with this because I wanted to like this book so bad. People were saying that it's such a good book, but I just could not get hooked and get into it. Literally would not keep my attention for anything. It kind of read more of like a drama. Like, we follow 3 different women in this town. I think one of them is younger and the other two are like older ladies. But the way that it was, it just seemed very like, why am I reading a story about housewives? That's just not what I was expecting from it. It could also be that I was expecting and or just wanting something that was a lot more fast-paced after having such a slow build-up from Anathema, and it was like 600 pages. I kind of was expecting to be hooked immediately, and I feel like that's where the book kind of felt short on my expectations. I really wanted to like this book because I've heard such raving reviews about it. I might pick it up at some point if I hear more like book talkers that I like talk about it, but at this point it didn't seem interesting enough for me to keep going. The next book was my second 5-star read of the month, and that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I think that's how you pronounce her name, but if not, please correct me. This literally made my heart jump out of my chest. This had one, proper enemies to lovers. Like, I feel that I actually felt Gideon and Rune's hatred towards each other before they ended up becoming a couple. Two, this made me fall in love with all of the characters and literally threw me into a spiral when I came upon the huge plot twist. And then she also ripped my heart out of my chest when we got to the last chapter. I felt very immersed in this world. The way that her writing was just felt so, I feel like her writing really grabs you and literally takes a hold of you and doesn't let you go until the end of the book. And then I don't know what I'm saying. I think I really enjoyed that like constant like push and pull, like the cat and mouse, the constant chase between them. I think the fact that it had such high stakes literally had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. Like, I wish that I could go back in time and read this book for the first time again. And I still have not read Rebel Witch yet because I'm really scared. I hope that Rune and Gideon end up together, because if this is like an enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers to enemies and it stays enemies, I think I'm going to riot. They're perfect for each other in the worst way possible. But I'm really excited to see what happens in the next book, and I hope it lives up to my expectations from the first book as well, because I know that a lot of the time when you have a duology, one book is significantly better than the other, and I hope book 2 is that for me. And sticking with the theme here, we have another DNF following our second 5-star book. This next book is A Legend of Golden Shadows by Victoria Vredevoogd. I really wanted to like this book, and I actually got pretty far into it. I think it was like 70 to 80% through when I decided to DNF it. It just seemed like this book had so many filler chapters. Like, there was so much going on, but like also it felt like I didn't care about anything that was going on. Like, there was just so much mundane shit in this book. Like, one, the FMC is an assassin and she can't even keep the secret that she's an assassin. 2, she's best friends with one of the princes and then is like sworn enemies with the other prince. And 3, it's like this weird trio friendship that like doesn't really make sense, and the whole time is just her going out and doing like her assassin duties and then coming home and pulling pranks on like the prince and stuff. I felt like her character didn't have a lot of depth, and it's supposed to be an enemies to lovers, and I couldn't even get to the part where they were enemies. Like, that's how much I feel like the plot wasn't developed. And I was really, really excited for this book because I really want to support smaller indie authors, but I feel like I was just waiting for the book to start the entire book. And again, I don't know if this is just like a 5-star hangover, me going into a book after reading something that's so great, but I could not for the life of me like just get over the fact that nothing was happening. The next book that I read was Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. This one I rated 3 stars, so right in the middle. I think the writing style is definitely subjective. The way that she was telling the story kind of did seem very repetitive. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what this book is about, we are following our human FMC Mira. She lives in a society where the human race is living in domes underwater. On the bottom of the seafloor, they're just glass domes. In my mind, they look like igloos. It's a dome, and then there's like little tunnels to connect them to other domes in their little city, town, whatever. And there are a couple different settlements throughout the world. For whatever reason, land is uninhabitable. It very, very briefly touches on the reason that they're at the bottom of the ocean, but that's why. Mira is an engineer, and she is, from what I understand, not very sociable. She doesn't have a lot of friends, and she has no living family. And then she has an encounter with Argus, which is something that they call an undine, which is basically just like a merman. She has an encounter. They are very intrigued with one another, but of course they're sworn enemies. And then over time, Argus does come and take her from her settlement while she is outside of the dome doing engineer stuff. And I feel like the whole book is just like kind of just them, no plot, which is fine. Like, I did not read this book for the plot. I read it because it was a sexy merman story. I do think that this plot line could have been a lot more interesting, but it's definitely like heavy on Mira and Argus's romance. You deal with like a lot of different, like everything in the world is going against Mira and Argus, but they still decide to be together. They have to get over the fact that they're sworn enemies. They have to get through like a language barrier. They have to figure out how the hell they're going to be together because Argus lives in the ocean and Mira needs air to breathe. I thought it was a good book. Subjectively, there is a series and they're like kind of standalones, kind of not. From what I understand, we follow one human merman couple in the first book, and then the other books are just other members of the same pod, continuing the storyline but following different characters. I'm not sure how I feel about it because I was kind of getting attached to Mira and Argus's love story. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue the series or not, but if I need a palate cleanser, I'm probably going to pick it up again. If you're not into like monster romances, this is definitely not for you. I'll just put that out there. Again, I thought this was 3 stars. The writing was a little repetitive, but at the end of the day, I thought it was fine. I still got through it. I actually read this like in one sitting during a road trip, so it was still fairly fast-paced for a fantasy romance. Next, we have our tried and true Frida McFadden, The Inmate. This one I rated 4.5 stars. I would have rated it 5 stars if I did not guess the ending, but I did guess the ending and I was right. And so that kind of took away a little bit of the shock and surprise from me. But at the end of the day, it was still very well written. And if I wasn't like a nosy bitch and trying to figure out how all the pieces fit together, I would have been thrown for a loop. Frida McFadden does a wonderful job of pointing you towards one direction and then it ends up being something completely different, and I think she does it amazingly. But I was kind of expecting that, so I kind of played into it, but then realized that this is Frida McFadden we're talking about and it's not going to be the person she's pointing at. And I feel like one of these days she's going to throw me in a loop because it is exactly what it's pointing at and I'm sitting here thinking about some other tangent. So The Inmate is, I can't remember names to like for the life of me. I know the baby daddy's name is Shane. I know that the best friend's name is Tim. I can't remember her name though. I think it's Brooke, but I'm not 100% sure. That basically, I'm just gonna call her baby mama. Baby mama has a son. He's 10 years old and she got pregnant in high school with her ex-boyfriend Shane, who is now in prison for killing some of her friends and trying to kill her. She moves back to her hometown after the death of her parents, and from there we kind of get like split POVs, like her recalling the night where everything happened and then her in the present day. She's a nurse practitioner, so she does work in the same prison that Shane is incarcerated at. And the entire time Shane is trying to convince her, hey, I didn't do this. It was definitely not what you think. And she is sitting here trying to decide if she believes him or not. And then I think that's all that I can say without spoiling it. Even if I did spoil who it was, there's still like another plot twist at the very end. I definitely recommend this. The only reason that it is not a 5-star is because it did not hit me as hard. But that's 2 very highly rated Frida McFadden books that I honestly probably wouldn't have picked up if I didn't discover that mystery thriller is low-key like kind of fun. I am hoping that I can kind of find more like summer-ween reads in the mystery thriller category for these upcoming months. So if you have any non-Frida McFadden recommendations, I am all for that. We are now getting into our last book finished for the month, and that is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I did rate this one 3.5 stars. To be honest, I don't really know what it was that I was expecting from this book, but it wasn't what this book actually was about. I couldn't tell you what I expected this to be about, but it's marketed as like dark academia and like academic rivals to lovers, and it definitely is that. It's just, I feel like maybe I was just reading too many books at once when I read this book, because I feel like I skimmed it, to be honest. But we're following Effie, who is the only female student in an architectural college. She enters this contest to, like, I guess design a house for somebody, and her entry gets picked and she goes to the place to, you know, make the final blueprints and everything. Now, Effie's passion is not architecture, it's actually literature, but the literature college does not accept female students, so she has to settle for architecture. We find that Effie does have some sort of mental illness that is making her believe that she is seeing things, and then we are taken through the story where we're kind of wondering if she is seeing things or if it's just her brain telling her. Honestly, I was like confused through most of the book, so me trying to retell you what the book was about is extremely difficult because I don't even really understand what happened. It was a very cozy read, I have to say. I feel like I was expecting more romance, and the romance is definitely more of a subplot. There is like a second book coming out. I'm not sure if it's a duology or just the second book in the series, but I hope the second book does go a little bit more into their love story. I would love to see more about that. I think the comprehension part is definitely more like my fault than Ava Reid's writing. I think she did that on purpose, and I just have like a pea-sized brain, so I wasn't able to really put the dots together. I think we were supposed to be a little bit confused, or maybe I'm just saying that to make myself feel better. I'm not really sure, but I think in hindsight, if I had paid attention a little bit more, then the plot would have been a lot more hard-hitting for me, because we are dealing with the battle that Effie has in her brain on whether these things are real or not. And I think as readers, we are also thrown into that mindset of, wait, is this like an unreliable narrator type of situation? Are we actually able to believe what Effie is seeing, or is this just something that is in her brain? I'm not 100% sure. I just know that it was such a weird reading month for me that I wouldn't be surprised if I completely missed the point, to be honest. All I know is that I need to read a book that hurts me emotionally now, because I feel like these gears have been turning a little bit too much, and I start to overthink about plot lines. I just need something that's just sad, or something that's just happy, to kind of like reset my brain and let my brain juice refill, because I can't play connect the dots for another book. I need a break. But that is all that I have. I'm not going to talk about Sky Shade, because even though I read like 90% of it in March, I'm still not done with it, and I don't think I'm gonna finish it by the time this video uploads. So that is all that I have. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any thoughts or feelings about the books that I just shared, please leave them down below. All of these are my own opinions. I definitely leave the enjoyment of books up to the reader. Reading and the enjoyment of said books are very subjective, so this is just my opinion. If you don't like my opinion about one of these books, that's okay. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Bye.